Okay, day 2. Units. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the best way to go about this is, but I'm thinking it would be a good idea to have a base unit class, and then off of that, different sort of sub-unit types, vehicle, infantry, etc. And then underneath those, the different ones with their own unique additions and so on. I have made some progress, but largely speaking, I've sort of just followed the tutorial. I have my units moving now, which is cool. I actually have a little cursor up here where you click, you can select multiple units, you can select things. I have a basic UI set up for when you select a building. The tutorials I'm following are starting to diverge a little bit from what I actually want to do, but I feel like I should probably complete them in their entirety, have everything under the toolkit. You know, how do I call UI elements, how do I do stuff with units before I start trying to do stuff on my own. But making note of little comments in the code where I know I want to change something, will be good for later when I go to retrofit it to make it my own. But yeah, here, let me show you what I've got so far. I've got essentially this working now. So you can select a unit, you can move the unit around, which is fine. I mean, it looks janky, but it does the job. You can move multiple, and if you can tell, they're all sort of subclasses of each other. So you have like small tanks, big tanks. This is not reflective of what the actual game might look like, but rather it's just for my testing purposes. I mean, I even have like this helicopter, but it's kind of funny because the helicopter has to avoid ground-based obstacles because it doesn't know how to fly yet, so that's kind of funny. But you got little dudes, etc. But the main thing is you can select your different units, you can move them around, you can select all of them, you can deselect them. You can see I'm running into an issue now where they kind of clump together. I'll have to come back and fix that later. But for now, I want to get the basics in. Making games is hard. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the tutorial series, and it's about the end of the 3rd day since I've been working on this project. And this has gotten exponentially more complicated every video I've followed, to the point where I'm kind of having trouble keeping track. So for those who may not know, my day job outside of SkyPyre is as a training designer, right? Largely the word design. I do a lot of graphic work and stuff, but I spend my days around training experts. And one of the big things that you figure out in that environment is that being able to act with what you're learning and implement it quickly is really important. As concise as the tutorials are, they are blazing through this stuff. And I think that I'm starting to accidentally leak out some of the words and the knowledge that I'm supposed to be retaining. So I think what I'm gonna do is take a pause on the tutorials. I looked ahead at the topics, and none of them seem to relate to what I want to do right now, which is focus on getting a good unit movement model and a couple of other factors. Why don't I show you what I've got so far before I close it off for the night. Alright, so we're back in our little white gridded box. You'll see some stuff has been added. Big things that have been added since the last time are the fact that you now place your home base when you first get in. That's actually not a mechanic I want to use, but it was part of the tutorial, so I decided just to follow through. And you can now make like other structures and stuff. For some reason, a water tower can construct a guard post, and also for some reason, no matter what you click, you can make something, and then you can push units around with it, which is rather comical. That being said, buildings are in, and you can see those materials and stuff. We haven't done any of the code to make them not placeable for certain reasons. But I'll grab this tank here. And you can't see what's going to happen, but I can send him over to this oil derrick, and he's actually sucking down resources out of it, and it's going to disappear. The tutorials called this, you know, the idea of being like it's a tree, right? They're kind of going for like a Warcraft thing where you get wood and stone and so on, so you consume the resource. In my game, things will work a little different, but I mean, again, I've just been sort of following the tutorials verbatim. So I think, having said it out loud, talking here, I'm going to take a pause in the tutorials and use that time to reinforce my knowledge, both on the stuff that I learned in the tutorials and on other things like how behavior trees actually work and all this other stuff. And I think that's probably what's best, because I've actually outlined 6 goals that I kind of want to meet. I'm so tired. The first is I want to make satisfying camera, unit selection, and unit movement systems. So basically, get moving units around to be satisfying. Second, I want to implement individual combat and healing related mechanics. So get the combat working together. Third is make solid base management and resource collection. So I've actually started on some of this stuff based on the tutorial, adding buildings and there's resources and stuff, but that's actually not a huge part of the game. So I want to focus more on the combat and the unit movement. Fourth, I want to implement the different terrain systems and stuff that I want to have planned. Fifth, I want to incorporate some single player AI into the mix. Like actually get units to like attack back and stuff like that. And then the last one is adding upgrade mechanics where you can customize units and stuff like that. And I feel like, having said all of this, you're probably wondering at this point what the hell kind of game I'm actually making. And I realized that we're already 2 videos deep here, and I have yet to actually explain to you what my plan is. So that'll be the 3rd video, the next video after this one. I will explain to you what this game is about and how it works, at least on paper as intended right now. That can totally change, but we'll start there. But for now, I'm going to go to bed. Also, my dog is sleeping. I feel like I owe it to her to go to bed. Alright, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.